Everybody, I'm Jamie Allison, and this is the Big Idea, Big Moves podcast. This is the destination for high performers. We talk to people from different genres, just different niches, just people doing really cool things in their space. We've talked to CEOs, we talked to lots of athletes, entrepreneurs, and sometimes scientists and people just doing interesting things that we can hear about their journey and some of the things that they're doing, and hopefully translate some of them into our own lives as well. And so we have another one of those that we're going to talk to today. Just before we jump into it, if you have been listening to the podcast for a while, you know that we are sponsored by Thirdsy, and Thirdsy creates natural products that help athletes and high performers generally get better quality rest and recovery from physical and mental stress. So again, it applies across the board. Their PM recovery collagen is melatonin free, it's sedative free, and it helps you get the best quality rest while supporting joint and muscle repair as well. And so you take some before bed, and you should wake up more energized and ready to take on your busiest days at work or your toughest workouts, depending on what that it looks like for you. So go to thirdsy.com and use the code BIBM20, and you can save 20% on that. And definitely try it out. It does work. So I'm really happy to be able to talk to our guest today. Sabine Ehgoetz is a single mother of teenage twin boys. She's a full-time marketing manager with a corporate training company, freelance writer, but also the founder and president of Mind Body Creations, her own online coaching business, which we'll talk a bit about today. And since about 2017, and it was a late start for her in kind of her mid 40s, where she got really passionate about bodybuilding and competing within the CPA NBC, and is currently a national qualified competitor with a big goal of getting her IFBB pro card, hopefully before turning 50. So that's her next goal, which I know we'll talk about a little bit. But first of all, Sabine, I know you've been working all morning and everything, so I appreciate you kind of jumping in and doing this with us and sharing some of your expertise today.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here and talk to you. And I've listened to a bunch of your previous episodes. Love what you're doing. So
great.
Excited to share some thoughts with you.
All right. Well, thank you for doing it. I mean, we did talk about just before we came on here that you do have a more traditional kind of corporate role, and then you've branched out into these other things as well, both from an entrepreneurial standpoint and also a personal kind of wellness standpoint as well. So what was the driver to do some of those additional things that now, are a big part of what you do?
I think I need to go a little bit deeper in that question because for me, everything in life is about alignment. And I feel like there wasn't like a corporate job and then there was the dream of having my own coaching business. It's more so that I had a passion for my fitness journey and for more than anything, empowering other people to live into their purpose and live their most powerful life. And I think the job I attracted kind of just fell into the same realm. We are a corporate training company, training people in emotional intelligence and leadership skills.
Yeah.
So I attracted that job out of being passionate about self-development, personal growth, mental growth, living your best life, and impacting other people in the best way. And out of having that role, especially in marketing, I really grew more skills and the confidence to say, hey, I'm gonna do it now. And I'm gonna take on my own business and I'm gonna pursue my own passion aside of having a stable job, because I think things get really hard, especially as a single mom, when you try to just be an entrepreneur. You kind of need that security to know where your money is coming
Absolutely.
from.
Yeah.
That you have the ease and the creativity and also the mindset of how can I best impact people other than how am I going to make the next, like, how am I going to make rent, right?
Yeah.
When you have
Yeah.
that in your mind, you're not as free to help people. So it gives me the ease and the context to do my best work in my own business, having a corporate job where we also work in the realm of bettering people and CEOs and
Yeah.
we work with a lot of high level leaders. So yeah, it all goes hand in hand, I think.
Yeah, yeah, and you're right that a lot of people. I mean, I think that's what's appealing to probably a lot of people listening is that they can connect with the whole idea that uh, in many times you do have to have that kind of base, feeling. Like it's you think of a hierarchy, and it's if you have to be able to make sure you provide for yourself and all those things, especially when you have dependents and things like that. So it's nice to know that if you find ways of connecting those, and maybe one builds upon the other, that's a good strategy for something that is a positive thing for your life as well. So when you did go into especially building your coaching business and stuff like that, I mean it is a little bit different. I mean I've been in a corporate role and outside of that as well, and having to learn how to kind of build things from an entrepreneur standpoint. Was there something that kind of jumped out as what was really challenging for you that was maybe a little bit different because you're used to being in a more corporate setup environment to you having to do everything that way?
You know what? I think the biggest challenge was jumping in and getting over that limiting belief
Hmm.
that I am not that. The mind flip of like, who am I to think I can do this? There's like a zillion people out there who do this well already. What do I have to offer? And finding like my niche for it and my calling for it and being brave enough to step into that calling.
Hmm.
And I will say, like, working marketing, I know how to build a sales funnel and a nurture funnel. I know how to do lead engage, like, how to drive engagement, how to create certain tools that help with your engagement or lead gen. Working in that field has been really helpful. I hired someone who built our website at work to build my website. So those weren't the challenging things.
Hmm.
The challenging thing was really to say, I'm doing this. I'm finding my own brand. I'm finding my why. And these are things we've gone through at work too. So even like creating your brand persona, your all of those things. Who are you? What's your why and what's driving you? Some of this I learned through my corporate job, but really being able to apply this to myself and leaving all limiting beliefs behind and say, I have a unique voice and I have something to offer to the world, and I need to be brave and step into it and just go after it and call myself a coach and an entrepreneur and an empowerment coach or whatever you want to call it. Like the world revolves around fancy titles, but at the
Yeah.
end, but beneath it is our why and our purpose and our god-given gifts that we are supposed to use, and we are often so afraid to just step into that power.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
was
And
probably the biggest challenge for me.
yeah, no, and I think it probably is for a lot of people. And I guess did it make a difference that because you've talked about you started doing some of this stuff a little later than some people. I mean, some people think that you have to do those at a stage where you don't have kids and things like that. And now you're at a stage where lots of people, I think, listening probably understand that. Was that helpful? I guess having the experience behind you before you did that. What was that like? Like, do you find that it was actually a positive that you waited a little while before you started some of that stuff?
As an athlete, personally, I always think I would have loved to start sooner and have
Yeah,
a real future in this. I
yeah,
mean, we start having something like Masters, Olympia, where we're like, this is a whole new dream. I'm far from it, and this is a whole new dream to dream. So
yeah.
we recognize that the athletes are getting older, and you're not necessarily retiring at 36 like it was for a long time.
Mhm.
From that athlete standpoint, yes, but I also have to trust that things find you when you're ready for it and not before. So I probably wasn't ready. If I look at my own personal journey of becoming and overcoming and growing into the person I am today, it would have probably been detrimental to go into bodybuilding much
Mhm.
younger.
Yeah.
Now, having stepped into that and having become an entrepreneur, I think we have to think about who we want to attract. And we attract typically people, we attract clients who are like us, who have a
Mhm.
similar story, who deal with similar challenges. I have clients, my youngest client, I think, is 19, and my oldest is in her 70s.
Mhm.
So they go through the board, but the majority of my clients are around my age, in their 40s and their 50s, and dealing with similar things. They're
Mhm.
successful women in life. They, have great jobs, great careers. They're predominantly mothers.
Mhm.
Um, they have, you know, they're in a time crunch. They have so much going on. They have so much responsibility professionally, personally. Many of them are single women too, because that's kind of the women, we attract back. So there is a market for everybody. There's room for everybody. We just
Yeah.
got to get present of what we have to offer to whom and how we can help them um, grow into. And I work with younger girls who I'm like, and my heart goes out to them, because I wished I had the opportunity and a role model or a coach like this in my younger years to help me pass some of these challenges I was facing around my body image. Something I'm so passionate about, helping these young girls have a healthy body image and
Mhm.
confidence. And social media pressure is different from what it was when I was younger.
Yeah.
Wholly, like
Yeah.
helping them with all of that. I'm super passionate about it. And so I get to use my experience, my life experience, and my growth journey to also help them. And I will tell you that some of my older clients were older than me. I'm like, I want to be that person when I grow in my 60s
Yeah.
and 70s. I want to be that powerful person who's achieved everything professionally and now has time to really focus on herself and self love, this appreciation for, especially as we get older. So, as much as I hope to inspire them and empower them, they're also inspiring me in a way of how I want to grow older.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that's great. And how? I mean, you mentioned that you are a great example of, you've got a whole bunch of things happening in your life, and you help your clients do it. But maybe even how do you balance things when you train? You have your own personal training, you have your own kind of training pieces you do with clients, and then you also have a job and you have kids and all those things as well. Um, how do you approach balancing those things as much as you can?
Well, my day has 48 hours opposed to other people's days.
Yeah.
In case you didn't know, no, I really don't know really sometimes how I do it, but I will say it's scheduling, and it's really being strict. And the word regimented sounds so awful to most people, but in scheduling and discipline and being regimented, actually, from like, you have freedom because you don't scramble and you don't panic how you fit it all in, because everything has a place on your schedule. So my days, honestly, they're boring. They all look the same. I get up early in the morning and I go do my morning cardio, and the length varies. So it depends on how I get up. When I get up, I come home, I give my kids breakfast, I drive them to school, I start my regular job. And then I go after work, I pick up my kids, I go train.
Mhm.
Often at nighttime, I may have some freelance work to do. I'm a freelance writer as well.
Mhm.
And then I try to schedule my check-in calls with my clients on the weekends, or if I have a lunch break, I can do that. Or, I'm trying to be present to them all the time. They know at 10 o'clock my phone goes off and you won't reach me. But other
Yep.
than that, I'm always there for them. And my business doesn't feel like work. So it doesn't typically add stress. And I'm happy to, I may be stretching at night or watching Netflix with my dinner, and I can answer to my clients. It doesn't add stress when you do something that lights you on fire. That's not stress in your life, right? So, but it's really just that scheduling everything, and also knowing your limitations. And
Yeah.
I'll be honest, like, my kids are not in organized sports. They never really had a huge interest. And
Yeah.
like, we tried a few different things. And then eventually I started this, and I said to them, well, there can be one athlete in the family. You didn't want it, I took it. So that's
Yeah.
what's so right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
So I can set boundaries around that.
and I think we had kind of talked before about the whole at times you kind of go all out on one thing, and other times you have to know when to kind of toggle back and forth around using your energy. And is that something you deal with yourself, and is it something that you have to kind of talk to your clients about a little bit too? Because it's important to understand when to toggle back, I guess, a little bit sometimes as well.
Yeah, it's actually a very crucial thing. And I will be very honest and say I'm not the greatest at it.
Mhm.
As an athlete, I put a lot of pressure on myself. I was just talking about this in my Instagram stories this morning, that I last prep I pushed too hard, and it took a toll. I didn't come in the way I was supposed to come in. I was too lean. I was too conditioned. I was running up the stair step for 75 minutes in the morning, driving my cortisol like crazy. But I was like, unless I die, I'm getting it done. And I'm like a bit like, I'm boss. My body better follow, and it never works. I teach that to my clients, but I don't necessarily follow it or think, oh, when you're in prep, that doesn't apply. I'm now paying the bill for it. I just hired a gut specialist. My coach is pulling me back. So we reduce some of that chronic stress so I can actually come in the way I'm supposed to. So often less is more. And that's a tough lesson to learn for an A-type personality go-together, like doer like me.
Yeah.
But I teach it to my clients because I know that being hard on yourself and pushing with no regards for your health, for your hormones, for all of that, is just going to limit you. And recognizing that life comes in phases. Like for me, for my lifestyle clients, I
Mhm.
have a very different approach than as for me as an athlete, right? Because I'm like, you can't sustain that. You do
Yeah.
need to have a free meal a week to have with your family. When you go on vacation, when you go to a restaurant, you are not taking your scale, your food scale, or your Tupperware container. It's going to make you miserable. And
Mhm.
that's not a sustainable approach. You're not having a deadline. You're not getting off this. This is supposed to be a lifelong journey. And I always say to my clients, what you can't see yourself doing for a lifetime, don't do it for a day.
Mm.
And yes, there's times when you push harder towards a goal. Maybe they have a photo shoot or they have a wedding coming up, whatever. But you need to be able to balance it. And you need to be able to balance that pushing yourself harder with the letting go and the being and giving yourself grace as well. Because there's nothing worse than making yourself wrong and feeling guilty and all of those things. They are so detrimental to your fitness journey.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you're setting those things up with a client and maybe even yourself, uh, do you if you're an A-type personality, I'm assuming you do have kind of specific goals you kind of outline. I could be wrong, but do you how do you approach goal setting, whether it's for fitness, but it's probably also things from a whole life success standpoint? How do you approach that?
I think we always have certain goals in mind. There's always usually like there is a time I am very goal oriented. That's why this sport appeals to me because there's a deadline. Your show
Yeah.
is on, dang, and you got to be ready for that day.
Yeah.
Or I've always found goals to work towards. Even before I was competing, I would book photo shoots, and then I had something to work towards. These are valid goals that like they have a date to it, and you work backwards, and you know how long you have, and
Yeah.
you make a plan. I mean, there's bigger life goals I have, and I can't say I know when that's gonna happen. I'd love to earn my pro card before I turn 50,
Yeah.
but it's not something where I say, hey, that's like I'm gonna go after it. I'm gonna give it my all. But I'd love to get married again. Well, you know what? You first gotta be that person who can be in a relationship and can like and know what she wants and like before that happens. Is that a life goal? Yes. Am I gonna write my book one day? Yes. The time is probably not now. So there's these bucket list life goals that don't necessarily have a strict timeline where I'm going with. I guess we're always this component of faith and alignment comes in and trusting there will be a time when it's right to do that. When, you know, you have become the person who gets to have those things and who gets to do those things. And that is something I had to learn is like this, like, don't force it when the time isn't your time yet. Give it your all, but also recognize it will find you when you're ready for it. And for me, faith has a huge role in my life. So I think that plays into the goal setting.
Yeah. Yeah. And um, what do you see when you're talking to your clients, let's say? Um, what do you see as the biggest obstacle or obstacles that they have that you're having to help them kind of get through? Like, is it planning? Is it mindset? Is it, what of all of those things do you see as probably the most common thing people have to get over to be able to move forward?
So I only coach women. I'm
Yeah,
huge for women's empowerment.
yeah.
And I will say that I don't know why this is, whether it's genetic or, socially over like decades and centuries. Deep in us is a question around self-worth and what we deserve as women. It's so astonishing because we've achieved so much
Hmm.
and we have equality these days and whatever, but it's ingrained in us. And I coach the most powerful women. They make a lot of money in their careers. They have achieved so much, and deep down is still that inner child that wonders whether she's truly worth it and deserves it. And this is the stuff we come up against because this is the stuff that makes you question, sabotage, make excuses, call back, take
Hmm.
yourself out of the game. All those things show up as women. Often we have this, like, I have to be the perfect mother, I have to be the perfect spouse, I have to be the perfect professional, I have to be the perfect athlete, I have to be all that to a T to know I'm good enough and worthy. And it's something that is in me too, and I had to really get present to and I work on it daily to say, let's uncover this, let's unwrap it and look at it in broad daylight and see what's really showing up there. And I think this is with every client, no matter who they are, no matter their age, no matter their income. This, and I'm a huge proponent of this inner child, inner parent, and inner adult idea, like the
Hmm.
Freudian idea of the it and the ego and the uber ego. It's very similar,
Yeah,
right? But
yeah.
how we relate to our inner child, what role the inner parent plays, and then becoming the inner adult who's able to watch those forces within us that are often at war with one another. So I would say it's that. It's not the stuff around it. It's not the scheduling and the busy life. We all have that.
Yeah.
It's not like you have to cook for the kids, so I can't eat it. It's not that. It's way, 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 way deeper.
Yeah. Yeah. And well, and interesting I mean, and that's really why it makes sense sometimes to have a coach or somebody that can help prompt that questioning, because people don't automatically challenge those things other than what they see as the kind of symptoms at the top, right? Um, and how about from your end? Have you got people that you look up to and learn from? Like, do you have specific mentors? Have you just kind of through your experience taken bits and pieces away from kind of different people? What does that look like for you?
I think I'm a believer you become the 5 people you surround yourself with the most. So I've always looked for people I can learn to surround myself with, people I can learn from, and environments I can grow in. Um, in terms of direct mentors, I don't know. I took a significant personal development program in 2015 that really changed the context of my life. And even though I'm not active in it anymore, I use those tools every day. They give the context to the life I live of personal ownership and responsibility, and constantly removing those filters of my perception, getting present to and removing my own filters,
Hmm.
and trying to come like from a clear slate. When I listen to people, it
Yeah.
transformed every single relationship in my life, from the worst divorce you can think of to my ex and I being best friends.
Hmm.
It is powerful stuff and I live it every day. So that was a significant um, thing in my life that I did. Nowadays, obviously, I have people I look up to, have achieved things I haven't achieved. Uh, my boss, the president of our company, is a keynote. He just trained together with Tony Robbins on a
Hmm.
stage. Like, he is a sought after keynote speaker, and has great visions. And I learned so much from him. Um, so that's someone in my life. My own fitness coach is one of the best in the world, with probably the most Olympic athletes and
Hmm.
Olympic wins in the history. He's on, like, I don't even know his white hair. I don't know his age exactly, but he's like a papa figure in my life. He
Yeah.
cares so much, and he just is not run by ego, and he is extremely successful and good at what he does and full of care. So that's definitely someone who, brings a lot to my life right now and speaks belief into me as an athlete every step of the way. So the mentors change over time and the learning always finds you in different ways. But yeah, I think, these are some of the significant things that shaped me as to who I am. And even, what we call the angels in disguise, the people that brought hardship on us and the people that, we have to look back at it and say, hey, if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have been so committed
Right.
to
Right.
this whole
Yeah.
idea of overcoming and becoming.
Yeah. Yeah, the best sometimes the best learning comes out of that hardship. So, and the best opportunities eventually. It just may not look like it right away. Um, so, one of the things that we ask every guest is, and I'm sure there's lots here that people have already taken away as very specific things that they can implement or take a look at in their own lives. But one of the things that I think a lot of people would really kind of connect with is that you have done. We talked about you having a role that's kind of kept the stability piece there, but then you did want to. There's other things I want to do in my life, and so there's lots of people who are probably looking at. I want to, have really delve into my side passion or my side a side business I want to be able to do that maybe just helps, fulfill me in a different way. Do you have a couple of tips on how people approach that? Because a lot of times it's very scary to do some of those things, or they feel they don't have enough time, or all of those things. Do you have a couple of specific things that they can think through to kind of move themselves ahead on that?
I don't know whether that's the clear cut answer people want to hear, but you have to step into your power and recognize your purpose. And I think often we are scared out of like out of ego and even like being shy or being holding back is like I don't want to embarrass myself. I don't want to feel ashamed. I don't want to fail. Fear of failure is holding us back so much from the most powerful things we could do in our lives. And then we are here on this planet. We have one life as far as we know. And we know, I think we all want to know we were here for a reason. We made an impact. We
Hmm.
didn't just come and leave, right? We are a speck of dust in time. Like that's a very grand answer to this, but you have been given a purpose. You have been given a unique skill, a passion that lights you on fire, that sets your soul on fire every day. And you want to play small and say, I'm not good enough. I don't have time. What if I fail? Oh, it's too scary. What are other people gonna think? You're gonna deny the world your unique gifts because of those things. That's not right. And it's not going to make you happy and it's not going to make you fulfilled. Like when you step into that power and you follow through on your what's really your purpose. And for me, it was always like allowing other women to be their most powerful self and just love every aspect of themselves, and take personal ownership for what's holding them back and where they're playing small to grow as women. And I want every woman to get up. I always say this, to stand in front of the mirror, get up, stand in front of the mirror and be a hell yes.
Yeah.
Not this like, oh, there's like, we all have these like, oh, there's the cellulite here and there's the bump here and whatever. But no, it comes from deep within this hell yes. So if that's my purpose, I have to step into this courageously and not deny other people the chance to become that through me. And that may sound like brand, whatever, but God has given me that. And I need to fulfill on that and not hold back because I'm scared of what may happen or that it's going to overwhelm me. And if you do something that sets your soul on fire, you will find the time. It's not going to feel like work. It's not going to add stress to your life. I'm often on calls with my clients. I will tell you, most of my check-in calls happen on. I have 3 hours, and they're 15 minutes long. I have 3 hours on Sunday where I kind of schedule them one after the other.
Mhm.
I'm in tears half the time. I am so lit up by the time I finish that last call. I'm I have no doubt that this is the right thing to do. And after work, like your 8 hour workday, you sometimes feel drained and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, let me just go to the gym and just work that off or smash some weights because it was just annoying. That feeling when we work for paycheck, these things happen. And I have moments in my business where I'm like, oh God, why did they not follow their diet or whatever? But overall, it doesn't feel like work ever. It's just joyful. And if I was to give advice to anyone thinking about it and not fully doing it, I will just say you need to go for it. And you will, like, just because it's unknown and uncomfortable. The only way to grow is to step outside your comfort zone and do it anyways. Do it scared. Go for
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Don't hold back.
Great advice. Great advice. And I'm sure there's lots of people that yeah, I think understanding that you take as much away from it as anything else. Like that's the big takeaway, is that it's not just doing something that helps fulfill you. It's probably much more than that, especially when it's something where you are dealing with people that you take as much of that inspiration away from them. That's actually even that much more fulfilling for you, I'm sure. So um, if people are trying to follow your journey and maybe connect with you on kind of coaching and things like that, what are some of the best ways to do that, Sabina?
I'm really active on Instagram. It's Mind Body Creations.
Yeah,
My website is mindbodycreations.ca. Um, yeah, that's probably the best ways. Or you find me with my name, Sabine Ehgoetz, on Facebook. But those are probably the channels, like, to connect with me, or fill out the
sure.
form on the website, or just find me an email, find me a
Yeah.
DM. I'm always on Instagram. We fitness people are always on there watching
That's
what's
true.
going on
Yeah.
in the world of competing. So that's a good way to connect with me.
Well, and what we'll do is we'll put in the show notes, we'll have the links through to that too, so people can go there directly, see lots of great material from your stuff, and also definitely take a look at and maybe shoot you a DM and ask questions, because I know you're very open with being able to make sure that you provide that stuff. So thank you very much for sharing your story today too, which I'm sure a lot of people are taking lots away from, and for just being able to take the time out of your day to be able to speak with us. Really appreciate it, Sabina.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on.
All right. And everybody else, if you haven't hit subscribe on the podcast, do that right now, because we have great people every week, just like Sabina. And again, we'll talk soon on Big Idea, Big Moves.